is it worth risking the chemistry this year, thinking about maybe raising your ceiling this year, but also the long-term prospect of building something that they're doing here?
It's Espo and Gill, and of course the Freckle Mamba behind the Mac, and it is NBA trade deadline. Gill, I like to call it subterfuge season because I don't believe you can actually trust anything you hear during this time. But there are rumblings of a handful of things that the Suns might do. The biggest rumors from our friend Mark Stein, who was on our audio only episode last week, that the Suns are looking at a scoring four is their main thing, but the name Jeremy Sochan has come up as well. What are your thoughts in terms of Jeremy, potential fit, and if it's a move the Suns should make?
Jeremy's an interesting player. He took the league by storm a little bit as a rookie, was all rookie his first year, and has fallen out of his way a little bit in San Antonio. And maybe it's those type of situations that new scenery could do well for him. But I think I start asking questions about what does that look like in Phoenix? Would it work in Phoenix? And on the flip side, what do you have to part ways with to get him? Because that's the other part of the trade talks, right? You don't just get anybody for nothing. They don't just
That'd
join.
be nice.
It'd be nice.
I like him. Yeah, just
Can we?
come on over.
We'll take him. You know, you're not using them. Sure, we'll have that. So that's
That's
the
how you
interesting
got
part.
Jordan Goodwin, to be fair.
That is true. That is true. So, I mean, a little different, Jeremy Sochan, former top 10 pick in the draft, but it's 4 years in the league for him now, and he's playing less than he's played in his entire career, first season of his career where he's not averaging double digits scoring. So maybe he can come and be had on a pretty reasonable or team-friendly trade deal. So it's intriguing, but I don't know if it makes that much sense, and I also don't know if they can make it happen.
Yeah, I'm sure it's somebody that they have some interest in just because younger, and you think, oh, we can fix him. Like that. That seems to be this time of year where if you don't have a lot of assets, you're going, that guy, I can make him what everybody thought he was going to be. But the problem is, you said he's not a good shooter.
Right.
Can't hit the three. Best he's ever shot is 30.8% from deep in his 4-year career, shooting 25%, almost 26% this year. Just not overly effective. Now, you would help you rebounding wise, at least in theory. He's had a career high of 6.5 rebounds last year, only averaging 2.7, but that's in part because of the playing time he's lacking this year. But I don't know that this fits necessarily the idea of a scoring four or some of the things that they are hoping to get. To me, this feels like a slight, maybe slight upgrade over Ryan Dunn, just because it's a guy you haven't seen before, so maybe he'll impress you, but also a guy that may block Rasheer Fleming from getting his chance as well. And he's young, and you're just kind of hoping you hit on something.
Right. The young part is the one thing that I think maybe makes sense. I know Eric and I had our audio only when we talked about Matt Ishbia's comments to Zach Lowe about what this team is looking for if they did anything. And he talked about the youth on this team. Jeremy Sochan is 22 years old. So to your point, that you can fix him. Maybe you think you can mold him. He's still a young player developing. He was a one and done in college at Baylor. So there's that interesting aspect of it of maybe, okay, this guy is young. And again, kind of we talked about with Ryan Dunn, maybe he needs new scenery, but they're really similar. We talk about like the need for size. He's 6'8", 230, so it's not like he's necessarily like a bruising forward.
It's not a small ball five.
Right, yeah, right. I'm not thinking of him looking at him like that as far as that with this team. And he has had some interesting parts of his career. I know when Greg Popovich was still at the helm in San Antonio, they tried to run him at point guard a little bit to facilitate. And he did average over 3 assists per game, which is interesting. But again, is there really a need for that on this team from that position? We talk about so much when we look at the flaws of this team. It's, look, maybe there's somebody who can deal with bruising bigs on other teams. I think he could fit. I think he plays hard. I think he plays well defensively. But the redundance, again, I don't necessarily know if that fixes anything or takes his team to another tier this season. It would probably be a bigger picture move.
Yeah, so essentially you would have a hybrid Ryan Dunn, Oso Ighodaro.
Right.
Guy that can't shoot, can handle the ball, can rebound, has some promise with it. And to me, everything I've heard is in my talks with people in the organization is they'll either go well into the luxury tax to try to make this team better and significantly better this year, or they'll try to get under it rather than playing close to that line and wind up paying the repeater tax and those penalties that come along with it. So I don't know that Sochan fits that mold. He's making 7 this year, okay, at that point you're not trading just Nick Richards, who everybody thinks you're going to trade and get something backcourt. I think you're probably going to get a second-round pick if you're lucky, highly protected in all likelihood. Or you're trading a guy like Royce to try to get under the cap and bring that. And then, okay, you've traded one of not just your better three-point shooters, but one of the better three-point shooters in the league for a
Right.
kid that can't hit from deep. I don't. None of it makes sense to me on that front.
Absolutely not. I think that's the thing that when you talk about his shooting and lack thereof, and he also has the whole thing where he was shooting one-handed free throws because the free throw wasn't there for him either. But that does show a willingness to learn and not be afraid of how it looks because he was doing it during NBA games, which we've never really seen before. That being said, if you're going to be so focused and worried about development of somebody, develop them as a shooter or developing them to be comfortable on the court, then you probably just tell yourself the answers on the roster between that hybrid of Ryan Dunn and Oso and also Rasheer, who we haven't really seen fully yet. I don't necessarily know if the risk is worth it. I will say it is also worth mentioning, though. Eric teased it on one of our pregame shows. Jeremy Sochan did go on Eric's feed and like a tweet of Jamari Bouye highlights. So maybe that's
I'm sure
something.
he'd love to be.
I'm sure he probably would love to be here. Who wouldn't want to be here with this team? It's fun. He likes to play hard, and he probably would fit with the team and the team's culture. But on the flip side, is it worth doing it, especially with what has to go out to bring him in?
Well, especially, okay, you're that interested in him. Why not look at it in the offseason?
True.
Be unrestricted. Maybe maybe he's a guy that winds up getting one of those 1-year prove it deals that you can bring in and enter into the mix. You'll probably have a better idea of what you want to do with Ryan and how you feel Shear's developing as well. So, and this time of year, you'll hear a lot of this team has shown interest or called about. That's Brian Gregory's job is
Due
to call
diligence.
about and sure, maybe you have interest in it, but that doesn't mean you're going to do it based on the timing, the situation, all sorts of things. There's a lot of guys I'm sure they like. Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Right.
Everybody likes him. Doesn't mean he's going to wind up on your team. And I feel like that's some of this is oh, there was a call that gets leaked.
Right. I think the big thing that is worth keeping an eye on, and this is something obviously we'll be monitoring throughout trade week. You saw those trades happen over the weekend. I couldn't even tell. I know Dennis Schroeder was moved. I know Vic Krejci was moved. And those things seem insignificant in the moment. But when the landscape starts to shift, teams are kind of moving and things happen. Like, yes, of course, anybody will want Giannis. But if the Bucks do make that move, the Bucks might end up becoming sellers. And there are maybe a handful of names between now and the deadline that become available that you weren't expecting to become available. So I think that's where I have my eyes on the Suns as far as like, okay, they've done their due diligence. This is unexpected. Maybe we take this swing. And I think the last thing that we've continuously talked about is it worth risking the chemistry this year, thinking about maybe raising your ceiling this year, but also the long-term prospect of building something that they're doing here?
Watch the small deals. It's usually financial maneuvering for something else. That is our VOD edition of PHNX Suns. Who do you think the Suns should get? Should it be Jeremy Sochan? Let us know in the comments.